In a quiet town where life moved slowly and people knew each other by habit rather than by heart, there stood a small house at the corner of a narrow street. It was an ordinary house. Plain walls. A small window. Nothing about it demanded attention. But inside that house, there was something unusual. At the dining table, there were always 5 chairs. Only 4 people lived there. The extra chair was never folded. Never pushed aside. Never used for decoration. It stayed there, empty, waiting. The family living in the house never explained why. Neighbors noticed it during visits. "Why do you keep an extra chair?" someone once asked, half joking. "Are you expecting guests every day?" The mother only smiled. "It's just there," she said. Over time, people stopped asking. Life went on. The family lived simply. They worked hard, ate together, and spoke kindly to one another. They were not rich. They were not famous. But they were peaceful. And every evening, when dinner was served, the extra chair remained empty. Some neighbors found it strange. Others found it pointless. "Why prepare for someone who may never come?" they whispered. Slowly, visits became rare. People preferred homes where laughter was louder, food was richer, and kindness came with display. The extra chair stayed. Years passed. The town changed. Shops closed. Weather grew harsher. Winters became longer. One winter, colder than any before, trouble arrived quietly. Jobs were lost. Homes were damaged. Travelers were stranded. One night, a storm hit the town. Wind howled through the streets. Power lines failed. Doors shook. A knock echoed at the small house. The father opened the door to find an elderly man standing in the cold, shivering, with nowhere to go. Without hesitation, the mother moved the extra chair closer to the fire. "Sit," she said softly. "No questions. No conditions. Just warmth." The man stayed the night. The next day, he left with gratitude heavier than his bag. Word spread. Another knock came days later. A woman and her child, stranded after their home flooded. Again, the extra chair welcomed them. They ate together. Spoke quietly. Shared warmth. Soon, knocks became frequent. Not because the family advertised kindness. But because people remembered. They remembered the house with the extra chair. Some stayed one night. Some stayed longer. Some came only to rest. The family never complained. Food was shared. Space was adjusted. Comfort was offered. Neighbors watched from a distance. Some felt ashamed. Others felt inspired. One evening, a neighbor finally asked, "Why do you do this? You don't owe anyone anything." The father looked at the chair and said, "Because one day, everyone needs a place to sit." Silence followed. That winter changed the town. People began opening their doors. Sharing meals. Checking on one another. Not because they were told to. But because they had seen an example. Spring came. The storms passed. Life slowly returned to normal. But something had shifted. The extra chair was no longer strange. It was respected. Children in the town grew up hearing stories about the house that always had room. Years later, the family grew old. The house remained. The table remained. And the extra chair remained. Still empty most days. Still waiting. Because kindness is not about how often it is used. It is about being ready. The town learned a quiet lesson that year. You don't prepare kindness for applause. You don't keep space only when it is convenient. You don't wait for need to knock loudly. True generosity waits silently. And sometimes, the simplest things. An empty chair. A warm meal. An open door. Can mean the difference between despair and hope. The extra chair was never just furniture. It was a promise. A promise that no one would be turned away. And that promise changed everything.